Hi everyone, I'm Justine Hayes, a third-year occupational therapy student at the University of Kansas Medical Center. Over the past 14 weeks, I've had the opportunity to complete my capstone experience at Johnson County Community College and Johnson County Mental Health Center. I'm excited to share some of my insights and experiences I've gained throughout this journey. And I also wanted to say thank you to both organizations for the support, collaboration, and guidance during my time here. My capstone experience focused on supporting neurodivergent students in higher education and in a community mental health setting. I am incredibly passionate about this topic, not only as a future occupational therapist, but also on a personal level. Being neurodivergent myself allowed me to incorporate my lived experiences into this work, making the project even more meaningful. Another essential aspect of my capstone was introducing and advocating for the role of occupational therapy within these non-traditional settings. I explored how occupational therapy can play a valuable role in higher education and community mental health, areas where we're not always recognized but where there's so much potential for us to make a meaningful impact. As part of my capstone experience, I set out to achieve 3 key learning objectives: enhance my knowledge of reasonable accommodations, deepen my understanding of neurodiversity, and strengthen my interprofessional collaboration and communication skills. To meet these objectives, I engaged in independent and observational learning activities. I dedicated time to reading current research, attending webinars, and completing trainings focused on these topic areas. I also gained valuable insights through observing various professionals during client sessions and had meaningful conversations with individuals who identify as being neurodivergent. Since neurodiversity was at the heart of my capstone experience, I wanted to share the personal definition I've created and some more insights. Neurodivergence is an umbrella term used to describe brain-based differences such as neurodevelopmental conditions, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and some mental health conditions. The idea behind neurodivergence is that people process, think, and behave in ways that may differ from what society considers typical. It's also important to note that neurodivergent is not a diagnosis itself. It's a broader framework, and it's a part of a growing advocacy movement that pushes for more inclusive systems and acceptance. As part of the capstone experience, each student completes a program evaluation, which builds upon a needs assessment conducted prior to starting the capstone. The needs assessment helps us identify site-specific strengths and areas for improvement, while the program evaluation allows us to take next steps collaborating with the organization to focus on a specific question and designing a way to collect data that supports quality improvement. For my program evaluation, I focused on incorporating both neurodivergent and mental health components and was informed by current research on neurodivergent college students. Studies show that neurodivergent students often face a range of social, emotional, and academic challenges when entering higher education. These challenges are frequently tied to difficulties with time management, maintaining motivation, and adjusting to increased academic expectations. The transition to college places a greater demand on executive functioning skills, such as planning, organization, emotional regulation, and task initiation. Research says executive functioning not only influences academic performance, but also plays a significant role in a student's ability to participate in employment, training opportunities, and social relationships. Since these skills are also essential for managing stress and emotions, strategies that support executive functioning and coping strategies have been shown to reduce the risk of developing mental health concerns among college students. This research helped guide the focus of my evaluation toward understanding how current supports address the needs of neurodivergent students and where additional strategies might be beneficial. The question guiding my program evaluation was, do services at JCCC and JCMHC address the executive functioning needs of students and clients? To explore this, I established 3 evaluation criteria to help measure how consistently executive functioning is being addressed. I looked at what was happening in sessions, what staff reported about their work, and how these skills were being documented. With this, I set a target to help guide the evaluation. For example, aiming to see executive functioning skills addressed in the majority of observed sessions, reflected in staff responses, and clearly noted in session documentation. These criteria helped me understand not just whether executive functioning was being considered, but also how consistently it was being integrated into services. Over a 10-week period, I collected 3 types of data to explore how executive functioning skills are addressed in services. First, I collected observational data by tracking which executive functioning skills were addressed or unaddressed during client sessions using the list of skills on this slide. Sessions were considered thoroughly addressed if all observed or stated executive functioning challenges were supported. Second, I administered a survey to staff at both sites that focused on obtaining their perspective of frequency in addressing executive functioning skills in their work. Third, I conducted a review of clinical documentation. I analyzed session notes and plan of cares to identify if executive functioning skills were explicitly mentioned using the same set of skills from the observational data. As previously mentioned, the criteria was set at 70%, meaning 70% of sessions should thoroughly address executive functioning skills, 70% of staff should report addressing executive functioning at least half of the time, and 70% of session notes should explicitly mention executive functioning. Looking at the graph, you can see 3 different data sources: what I saw in sessions, what staff reported, and what was written in session notes. In the observations, executive functioning skills were fully addressed in 48% of the sessions, so just under half the time those skills were fully being supported. In the staff survey, 50% of people said they address executive functioning skills most or all of the time. This tells us that over half feel it's part of their regular practice. And in documentation, executive functioning was explicitly mentioned in 71% of the session notes, which met the target criteria, indicating that when these skills are addressed, they are effectively documented. In addition to the main data collected for evaluation criteria, I also gathered some extra information to better understand how executive functioning skills were being addressed during sessions. First, I looked at who initiated the discussion or focus on executive functioning. In 79% of sessions, it was the professional who took the lead in bringing up these skills. This suggests that professionals are actively incorporating executive functioning into sessions. Second, I looked at how these skills were being addressed and broke it down into 4 main categories. The most common approach was education, making up 56% of how executive functioning was addressed. This indicates that most of the time, professionals are teaching clients about executive functioning skills rather than using hands-on practice or techniques. This graph shows a breakdown of which executive functioning skills were addressed and which were unaddressed during the observed sessions. The most commonly addressed skills were planning/prioritization, followed by organization, task initiation, and time management. These are areas that were consistently focused on during the sessions. On the other hand, the skills that were least addressed included sustained attention, flexibility, stress tolerance, and task initiation. This tells us where executive functioning support is already strong and where there may be opportunities to focus on improving specific areas within the future. In addition to assessing how often staff address executive functioning, the self-report survey also gathered information on knowledge and competence. 96% correctly answered the question about executive functioning, showing that nearly all staff are familiar with these skills. 50% reported feeling highly or fully confident in their ability to address executive functioning, indicating that half of the staff feel strong in their ability to support clients in this area. Regarding how often staff address executive functioning, 7% said they address it all the time, and 46% said they address it most of the time. The survey results show that staff have a good understanding of executive functioning, and many feel confident in their ability to support clients with these skills. These results show that there's a strong foundation to build on with opportunities to continue strengthening skills. This graph shows how often different executive functioning skills were explicitly mentioned in the session notes. From this information, we see that planning/prioritization, task initiation, organization, and time management were the most frequently addressed, while response inhibition, working memory, sustained attention, and goal-directed persistence were the least mentioned. This indicates that these skills are either overlooked or not consistently emphasized during sessions. Overall, this information shows where there's good attention to certain executive functioning skills and where there may be opportunity to better support clients in developing other areas that are just as important for success. If you're interested in learning more about enhancing your skills or supporting others with executive functioning, I've created a set of resources designed to be practical tools you can use in your work or even apply to your daily life. These include an overview of key executive functioning skills, a guide on why these skills matter, and practical strategies to support individuals in building executive functioning skills. In addition, I've created an infographic focused on neurodiversity. It includes websites that explain more in depth about what neurodiversity is, plus resources for students, clients, and professionals, all while touching on topics related to education and employment. I hope these materials help build on the knowledge you already have and offer tools to support the incredible work you're doing. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. It's been an honor to contribute to this space and for the amazing learning opportunity.